Welcome to another installment in my series of vlogs to blockchain or not to blockchain. Last week, I presented to you a research framework that I'm working on with some colleagues to investigate this question of when it makes sense to use blockchain technology. And today I want to focus on one specific quadrant within this 2x2 framework. And I am really pleased to be joined by Chris Feola, who is the creator of a solution called Privacy Chain. His startup is called Feola. And Chris is no stranger to technology. He has previously worked as VP of Technology at Belo Interactive and was also the EVP and CIO at Ask Sam Systems. He has specifically his expertise in the new media space and was considered by Online Journalism Review one of the 50 most influential people in new media. He's done expert interviews on PBS NewsHour and NPR, Talk of the Nations, as well as the New York Times. Currently, he holds 3 patents in distributed data architecture and also has 1 pending patent. So, Chris, welcome.
Thank you, and I'm pleased and honored to be here.
Great. So I thought we could start off by you telling us about Privacy Chain and what problem Privacy Chain addresses. How you would describe the business model of Privacy Chain.
Sure. Privacy Chain addresses a singular data problem, but that has massive and multiple implications. The singular data problem that it solves is that if you think about the difference between a real world product like a book and a digital world product like an ebook, when you produce a book, you print it, there is a single copy of that. Now you can make copies, but that involves making another physical thing. And you have what are called diminishing returns in any industrial age business. At a certain point, no matter how massive you get and what economies of scales you bring to bear, you really can't reduce the price any further. Now, the digital world is reversed completely. The very first copy of Microsoft Office or of Adobe Photoshop costs, or of a game like Halo, costs tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. The second one is free. And so was the third and the fourth. And so what you got was this situation where any sort of a digital product, you immediately lost control of. And this has had enormous implications. We all know what it's done to privacy, but for businesses, it's literally destroyed the entire business model of entire industries. For example, there's yet another court case in the past month where a court ruled that any photographer who puts any image on Instagram can have that image reused by anyone without paying them because of Instagram's terms of service. That says that any image there can be embedded anywhere for any reason. So if I took a photo of you and I sold that photo and says, drinks Coke, you could sue me. But if I took your photo, shoved it on Instagram, and then pulled it up into an ad that said drinks Coke, nothing you can do about it. And as a photographer, the entire business goes away. So what we've done with Privacy Chain is to take each piece of data and burn it down onto its own blockchain and encrypt that one piece of data. So for privacy, this means nobody can open your piece of data without the key. Don't give them the key, they can't use it. I want to focus here on a simple example that makes a ton of sense, and that is we are doing what are now called, it's still just blockchain, but a non-fungible token or an NFT. And we're doing it a little different than the Ethereum NFTs. That is, we're not using cryptocurrency, so there's not 3 days worth of electricity for your average house burned up to each one. There's not $60 to $80 in minting fees then for each one. But the really interesting thing is that because we're burning each song, for example, onto a separate blockchain, and we're including the work itself, Ethereum NFTs only include a link to the work, not the work. Since we're putting that song into a locked digital safety deposit box, the artist now has complete control of that piece of music or artwork or digital sculpt, whatever it is. But let's stick to music. So here's what that means. First of all, you can now get to singular pieces of music rather than a single song that's identical and is sold for 99 cents as an MP3 to millions of people or streamed to millions of people. Now you can have a single live performance. You know, here is here is 21 Pilots playing an acoustic version of their hit song at a May 19th coffee shop intimate concert. Make one version of that, and it's the only one in existence, and then auction it off and have control of that. You could also do some really new and fun, I think, artistic things with it, because you have control over this permanently, and because you can put rules into those keys when you sell them. You can then do things like create music that only plays at night. You can put songs on an album, love songs that are only playable if you and your significant other are logged in at the same time. New songs appear. There's some fascinating new aspects, I think, to this. And then beyond that, for the first time, you can have a follow-on market that still includes the artist. So here, once a singer, 21 Pilots, releases that singular performance and it's auctioned off, because it's an NFT that can only be played in the 21 Pilots player, they can then control the ability of that fan to resell it. They get another cut of royalty. And if it's resold again, they get another cut of the royalty. So it really changes how these things work. And while I think it's going to be very good and very lucrative for the big artists, it's really going to take the what are called the middle tier, mid-level authors, mid-level songwriters, people who really have to grind it out and play live and do book tours and all of that to make a living, teach on the side. It's really going to enable them to monetize their work in a way that hasn't been possible.
So the next place that I wanted to go, now that we have an understanding of privacy chain, is to put this into the context of this framework. And we talked earlier and suggested that most probably privacy chain sort of fits into the quadrant that's labeled the secure transaction ecosystem, which is where I've put it now. So I was wondering whether you could elaborate a little bit on what it means to use blockchain in that quadrant. So maybe we'll start off with the value. Why is blockchain so well suited to the issues that you've just described?
Yeah, what we've done here are what we're calling green NFTs, are effectively a piece of content embedded and locked into a smart contract. And so that does a number of things. One, like any other blockchain, it has a 100% unassailable record of every transaction. It's hard to describe what an enormous problem piracy is for content creators. There used to be something called stock photography, where professional photographers would take photos that could be then used commercially. There is literally the industry has collapsed completely because a combination of so many people taking decent photos with smartphones, but bigger yet, any photo is immediately stolen and reused all over the world. And if you talk to intellectual property attorneys, first, they will tell you it's enormously expensive to get, for example, patent rights all over the world. You have to file in each country. copyright the same way, and then the difficulties of getting those things recognized and dealing with the differences in laws from country to country. Now, because the content is locked into a smart contract, you meet the terms of the contract or you don't. And if you do, you could use the content. And if you don't, sorry. And so it becomes an ability to actually enforce your intellectual property rights and have them used that way. For example, you can license an image for printing or for making a T-shirt or something like that, and you can license it for a different price, for 1, for 10, for 100, for 1,000, and then enforce it. It literally won't print the 101st time.
So the key difference here, if we sort of say, well, could you have built privacy chain in a more traditional, architecture, for example, relational databases or any kind of centralized databases for that matter?
No.
So basically what you're saying is that the individual, the owner of the content, controls it, has the key to that content, rather than having given away that control over the content to a third party that then is responsible for the centralized storage of information data, where it could potentially be hacked, or where you're relying on the enforcement of the contract. Basically you rely on the owner of the database to do that, and as opposed to your solution where you forever hold the key, you as the individual owner hold the key.
Exactly. You can build something in a database and make it secure, but as soon as someone plays the song, you've got to release it to them. You've just sent it out to a public system. It's gone. So it's kind of like arguing about, how secure your building is if you leave all the doors unlocked. Well, theoretically, it's very secure, but in reality, you let everybody come in and out by unlocking the doors, and so that's what you have. Because we're not locking the building, okay? Because we're putting each song into this digital safety deposit box and locking. We don't care who's in the building. We don't care if the truck is secure or not that takes it to the next building. We don't care if the network is secure. We don't care if you ever change the default password on your Wi-Fi router. We don't care. It's locked.
Yeah.
You can't open it without the key.
Right. And so, earlier on we were discussing in terms of why privacy chain most probably is located in the bottom right quadrant, because by securing this digital content, right, in the blockchain, you essentially have resolved a lot of the asset verification issues that we might have with, for example, a blood diamond or a physical piece of art, right? So that makes it sort of low on the asset verification scale, complexity scale. But the network complexity, on the other hand, is high because you have so many actors. You have the record company, you have the artist, you have the various people who need to be paid royalties, for a song, various members of the band or musicians that were playing on the song. It's just a very complex set of issues where payment, if you're looking at royalties, right, sort of have to be distributed.
Absolutely. No, you perfect summary of what's going on there.
Okay. So you've illustrated to us why this blockchain is the best technological solution for this problem. What would you say are the challenges of operating in this bottom right-hand quadrant?
A lot of it is simply that you have to educate folks that you are working with on this. Most people think that if blockchain and cryptocurrency aren't the same thing, that they're joined at the hip. So leveraging the enormous capabilities of a decentralized ledger that self-replicates and self-heals without all of the sideshow, to me, of cryptocurrency, both in terms of the overhead, the energy use, the cost, the time it takes. I mean, the average mining or minting process now is up over 2 days. Cryptocurrency needs blockchain. Blockchain doesn't need cryptocurrency. It has an enormous amount of value without that. So there's an educational process that we have to walk through to explain how those are two different things. What we tend to get, though, is that when you talk to a musician, a writer, an artist, and they realize, a photographer, and they realize that they can get some control back, people are enormously excited about the possibilities here.
You know, to your point about Bitcoin and all these, you know, digital currencies and the enormous cost that mining, you know, brings to that particular kind of business model, that becomes a concern actually in the space, the bottom right-hand quadrant. Makes a lot of sense, because personally I would put, you know, the financial currencies in that exact quadrant. That, you know, having digital assets that get controlled and traded, and you know, that there's settlement of payments and so on. That's exactly what that bottom right-hand quadrant is about, right? Royalty payments and so on. And that you know, it's easy to then confuse a blockchain solution that is really about privacy and control over digital content, that it's easy to confuse that with, you know, cryptocurrencies and sort of this crazy expense associated and you know, with mining, and the environmental concerns that people have and so on, right? That becomes sort of a need to ferret these out, right? That certainly makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even Elon Musk has gone back and forth on whether or not Tesla would accept Bitcoin in payment, because you could make a credible case that enough Bitcoin to buy a Tesla would use more energy than actually building a Tesla.
Oh my gosh!
You know?
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, it also depends on what time of day you buy the Tesla, because Bitcoin can be up or down $50,000, right?
Yep, all these kinds of issues, right? Anyway, thank you very much. I think this has been very helpful for me also to you know, talk about this particular solution that you have built and where it fits into the framework, because as I've indicated before, this is ongoing research. So we really are very interested in understanding more about each of these quadrants. So with that, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just again, honored and appreciate the time and the attention.
Well, thank you. And again, fascinating stuff here. So thanks again.
Thank you.